This is the 21.5 Show.
You're on 121.5, the emergency frequency.
Whether you're a professional pilot or want to be one, you're in the right place.
Let's get started.
Join professional aviators Dylan and Max as they talk their experience in the airlines, business aviation, and more.
Life is good.
Industry experts, unique stories, and plenty of fun. This is the 21.5 Show.
Here we go.
All right, we're back. Another episode, 21.5 podcast for pilots, some who are professionals.
Others who want to be one. Joel's intro.
You who act professional. But
Yeah, we got to update our intro. We still got Joel ripping.
I know.
Which is
Rest
good.
in peace.
Yeah, just need to get a new one. Maybe if you've got a good listener idea for an intro, let us know. It'd be a combo of like
my
flute.
idea is to throw it to the listeners. Who's got a good intro voice?
Um,
Anyone interested in doing a test read?
Yeah.
Send it in. Info 21.
That's a really good idea. And we'll like mix in Donovan Batiste and a flute, and we'll have like all the different like elements
Just a whole
intertwined.
mix.
We'll play like a drop from James really quick. It'll be like good. We'll have like a little bit of all the elements of the
That
show.
would be good. That's really good.
And then at the end is just Ted just going,
This sucks.
we've got a cat. Hello and welcome to all of the listeners out there. If you're new here, you're probably scratching your head wondering what you've encountered, but don't be afraid. This is just some of the banter that you can look forward to between myself, Dylan, a corporate pilot, and my co-host and somewhat hobbled friend, Maxwell.
Bro,
The struggle
rough
is
week.
real.
it's been a rough week.
Rough week. Do you want to start with that, Max, or do you have other...
Sure.
Where do you want to go?
Yeah, I guess. So I went in on Monday to have about the most simple knee surgery you can have, which is a meniscus, removal of a torn meniscus. That's how, I do not know. It's very frustrating. It's painful, annoyingly so. And so, you know, if you're active, you got to get it repaired or removed anyway. So I go in, it's 30 minute surgery. They poke 2 holes in your knee, you know, take out the torn piece and you're good to go. So I go home, everything's fine. You know, I'm walking around. I'm like, yeah, this is not bad. The recovery is supposed to be very, very simple. And then 2 days later, my knee swells up. I can't bear any weight on it. It's this whole thing. And now I go to the ER. Because they're worried if it's a blood clot or an infection. I'm like, what have I got myself into? And so I go to the ER and they're like, I don't think it's an infection, but we're not 100% sure. So they give you some antibiotics, but the whole point of this story, because I'm sure nobody really cares about my knee woes, but is they're like, yeah, if it's an infection in your joint, you have to be on IV antibiotics for 6 weeks at home. Like you go home, but you have an IV in for 6 weeks, which would obviously eliminate
That would slow down the flying a little bit.
Yeah, it would slow down the aviating quite a bit. So it's just one of those things that made me think it's like, you know, you think you're going in for the simplest knee surgery of all time, and pretty soon you could be laid up for 6 weeks. And that's not that bad. Or you could get a blood clot, dude. If you get a blood clot, I had a friend of mine that had a blood clot that's a pilot, and that's a whole thing. Like with the FAA, and you have to then, if you're on blood thinners, then that's a whole thing. You have to wait and get evaluated. You know, you lose your medical for a period of time. Like, so there's these things that you don't really think about that going into it, you're like, yeah, it's no big deal. Like, I didn't think that this was going to be a big deal at all. And it turned out to be like, not a big deal, but a medium deal, we'll say.
It had the potential to easily get to be a
Well,
bigger
and it
deal.
just,
So.
yeah. And it perked my ears up. I was like, dude, that could be like, that's just an example of how fragile this whole medical situation can be for stuff that you just do not see coming. So
Max's health update is, of
Pilots,
course, brought to
beware.
you by our friend at Harvey Watt, harveywatt.com for all your loss of medical coverage.
that's it, man.
Needs. Well, I mean, remember when we talked to them and what was the stats on like...
It was 77% of pilots will lose their medical at some point in their career.
For a long term.
Yeah.
So I guess TLDR, we're all getting old.
Well, so here's what's interesting too. So every month when I bid, I download the bid lines, right? It says you are bidding number 254. These are just, I'm making this up, but 254 out of 467. And there are 75 paper bids above you. So a paper bid means those are people that are out of medical for the most part or something like that. And you look at, and that's FFOs, right? Which is a younger demographic overall. So every month I look at that and I'm like, that's a lot of people.
So
just in my base.
Almost 500 people?
Well, I shouldn't say that. They're not all out on medical. There's other reasons that could be paper bidding, but by and large, those are people that are out for some reason. But it's real.
That's sobering.
Thing. Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you're doing better.
Yeah, I don't think it was infection. I think I just had some my knee decided to overreact to the situation essentially and swell up really bad. But it is very slowly getting better.
Well, I know all of the listeners will join me in pulling for you, and I'm sure you'll be back at F45 soon. Making 22-year-olds embarrassed by how much you can squat. All right, well, keep up the good fight. That leads me into now. How did you get this meniscus tear, Max? Because we got some listener emails asking about your landscaping. And then you had very famously been on this show and said, listen, don't do this stuff yourself. Pay someone to do it. And
do what you do.
Do what you do best.
Let
let the pros do what they do. So did you tear your meniscus spreading rock in the heat?
No, I don't think so. I could have. I don't really know. But I'm like, the thing is, I'm paranoid of injury. Like at this stage of my life, like I'm paranoid. Like I don't lift super heavy anymore to try and impress myself or whoever. I'm very strict about my form, all for this reason. So that's what makes it so frustrating, is that I don't really know what happened. But irregardless, no. So I built this new house. It's I got a front yard, backyard. It's all got to be done. I'm building my own pool, meaning like I'm the hiring all the contractors. I'm not like digging the hole, but I'm the builder for the pool, right? Which I've done before. So that's done. And now we got to landscape the thing. And I'm like, I have this great idea, because I feel like kids
We're
today
going to save so much money.
No, well, we'll get to that, but that was not the main motivation. The main motivation was like, it's important to me, like kids these days, I think are losing a lot of appreciation for like work and what it takes to make money, and how a lot of other people have to work and so like, my kids, your kids, they don't get to see, their dad doesn't go out and do manual labor, like things like, our job, and frankly, our jobs are pretty easy. Like it's, they see what their image is I think a little bit skewed as to what reality is. And I think that's a tough thing so my idea here is I'm like, look, we're going to do this. I'm going to have them out there spreading rock. Like my kids, I'm going to pay them, but they're going to like hopefully make that connection of like, okay, to go to this movie, I had to spread rock for an hour, like to make that money. Like it gives money value, because I feel like they don't have. So this was my grand plan, right? In my head, this all works out really good. So
of course, yeah, it always does.
So there's some of the stuff, like I said, if you're going to do stuff yourself, like if you like to do it, like the metalworking part and building this metal fence and welding it, like that I wanted to do. And frankly, I wanted an excuse to buy a tractor, but that's another thing. But at the end of the day, I did it to try and have my kids involved, and actually for them to see me doing stuff that is hard and working hard, like with some of the guys. So that was my plan. It doesn't always go to plan. Like there's times I'm out there when I was complaining, like I was pouring footers on by myself, like nobody's watching. And I'm like, what have I got myself into? So I appreciate people calling me out, because please feel free to call me out when I go back on something I said on the show. I like that. But my motivation wasn't like, oh, I think I can do this cheaper. Because certainly, especially with like spreading rock, for example, or planting plants, like I could have certainly gone to work and paid somebody else to do that and still come out with less effort and probably more money. But there was ulterior motives of, as far as trying to set an example and have a learning experience for my 3 boys who are 9, 12, and 14. So they're like right at that age where, I don't know. If you have kids that age, but it wasn't trying to save money. I was just trying to it was like a child rearing move that I thought was appropriate. But
And so to sum it up, do you think what did you succeed in doing? Probably discouraging your children from taking a job as a landscaper?
I think so. No, I think it was impactful. Like I think they're like, oh, this is hard, and they're seeing like, wait, like it's funny because then they do it and they're like, wait, how many bags of concrete have you used? And they're like, wow, it's there was a connection made somewhere.
Yeah. That's good.
To doing something hard. Like that's what I tell them. Like, Dad, I'm sweating. I'm like, yeah, it's okay to sweat. Like that's actually good for you. It's okay to do hard stuff. And I was like, you guys need to get comfortable being uncomfortable because you guys are way too comfortable being comfortable right now. Oh, I need to go to the bathroom. Can I get a snack? Oh, I need to go grab my water. Like, excuse a minute, dude. And I'm like, fine.
Yeah, right.
But I'm not paying you for this, so you're off the clock now. Oh, what? Okay. It was, but I don't know.
It's good. It's funny. It was dumb, that book that we both read, speaking of books, we've got to get into the book club here in a minute, but that book that we both read last year, The End of the World is the Beginning, where Zion talks basically about how we used to have kids to be like more labor
to work on the farm.
Yeah. And then now it's all switched to like, now children are basically expensive pets for a lot of people. Like they don't
drain on resources. It's funny. That's what I explained to them. I'm like, why people back in the day used to have all these kids? Because to have kids to help on the farm for harvest time. I'm like, they used to not have school during these times. They're like, really? Whoa. That's crazy.
All right. Well, if you have a child age 8 to 12 that needs some manual labor, go ahead and shoot us an email, info@215podcast.com. We'll be happy to put them to work.
Not anymore, dude. Party's over.
Constructing Max's backyard this summer in the Arizona heat. Should be great. Should we talk about some aviation stuff?
Yeah, we should dive into that.
Piloting stuff?
Please.
Chapter 2 of the book club. If you missed it, we're doing the book club. We're reading one chapter for every one of these episodes. The book Hard Landing. One of our listeners, Chad, one of our buddies, sent this picture of we posted on social media of this other book called Hard Landing with this like shirtless like
it's like a
guy.
romance
It looked like kind of like
right?
softcore romance. It said like Hard Landing. It had some like male model and like some Apache helicopter in the background. It was hilarious. I thought it was so funny. Awesome. Shout out to Chad for that one. That was good. But no, chapter 2 of the book was all about love, Max. The origin of love.
Not all.
The origin of
Only half.
Southwest.
Yeah, my boy Herb Kelleher and the whole Napkin, Texas startup of Southwest, and it's cool because that's what set the tone of the whole company. It's cool. I know that story. Obviously, I've heard it a million times, but it's always cool to read it again and kind of gets you fired up. It makes you see where Southwest came from and why we have the culture we do. Not that it hasn't changed quite a bit as we've grown and everything, but it is cool to see against all odds, and Herb in the courts fighting lawsuits that were trying to shut them down before they even got off the ground and everything. And finally, found a loophole. Cause the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize is the CAB. We talked about this last time when airlines were regulated, you had to go and petition, say, here's what we'd like to charge for a ticket. And everybody had to charge that. Well, Southwest, because they only flew in the state of Texas, they didn't have to do that because they weren't considered a air carrier at that point, right? So that's how they skirted those rules and were able to undercut everybody and start there. And so it's just fun to read and see how Southwest got started. So if you guys don't know that, that's a great part of the book. And then it kind of goes into how, the other thing that you've always heard about is that we did at Southwest, and people still talk about this, because there's still people that have done this, which is the 10-minute turn.
Yeah. Yes.
How we used to do 10-minute turns. Dude, we can't even do a 45-minute turn anymore. Obviously the airplanes hold a lot more people than they did back then, and everything's a lot more complex, but it's pretty interesting. And so the way that came about was that we had 4 airplanes Southwest did, and then they were like right on the verge of, they had no money, they couldn't afford it. They were gonna, and then if they got rid of a plane, they were gonna have to get rid of some people, right? In layoffs. And so what they said, that we'll just do the 4-plane schedule with 3 airplanes, and the only way they could do that is to do 10-minute turns. So everybody said, fine, we'll figure it out, and they did. And they would literally, the flight attendants would be walking behind the passengers as they got off, cleaning the airplane and getting them turn and burn. So I thought that was always interesting story. But the other thing that was interesting about this chapter was like how they were using, sex to sell tickets, right?
Oh yeah,
like all the airlines, like with the flight attendants and saying
no one could be married. At United, they didn't allow the flight attendants to be married. One of the things that blew me away was that United was still operating all male passenger flights.
That's one of the parts
70s.
I've highlighted. United in 1970 was still flying a men's only flight between Chicago and New York, complete with free cigars and golf balls.
I mean, like that's it. That was just
sorry,
like,
ma'am.
Holy
This
smokes.
flight's men only.
No.
That's hilarious. Isn't that crazy though? How things like it's just.
But it was just it's interesting to see an industry be born and go through all of these different iterations. Meanwhile, seeing like even when they talk about the start of Southwest, how brutal the anti-competitiveness of the judicial system can be when you've got the incumbents that are trying to block anyone else from coming in to the marketplace. It's like there's a lot that goes on. It's like if you want to start a new company, like it's all lawyers, for years. The other interesting
or at Herb
thing,
Kelleher's place, you have to be the lawyer.
right? Yeah, exactly. If he wasn't a lawyer, Southwest would have never made it because they basically needed his pro bono work for years to be able to get off the ground. The other interesting thing that I think that you get, and Southwest was a great illustration of this, is when you work for a smaller aviation company, and I think you and I can relate this from like working for a small charter company or even a Part 91 flight department, where it's just a few employees, and you can usually pull together and solve just about any problem pretty quickly. And it's more reliant on the employees to kind of figure it out, versus like when you're at the huge airline where you're basically just a tiny little cog in a huge machine, where it's sort of like you've talked about before, like you can see how things are going wrong, but you've just kind of got to let the system like work itself out, and like
it's an economy of scale thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It reaches a critical mass where you can't do it
the
old way, but the new way doesn't work.
There's no ability to be nimble anymore. So that's I mean that was cool, and honestly that's one of the main things that really attracts me to the type of flying that I do, is that working for that small little operation that can remain to be nimble, but there are obviously a lot of benefits to working for the big company too. So
it's just like we always said, you create the perfect job with parts of each.
Yeah. And then the second part of the chapter really gets into Frank Lorenzo and starting Texas, or not starting, but doing a takeover of Texas International, and kind of talking a little bit more about, I would say, Frank Lorenzo is going to be a big part of this book. Like he is a long and
put it this way:
career.
if you've never read the book, at one point Frank Lorenzo is walking around wearing a bulletproof vest during his day-to-day life. Yeah. So you'll find out why.
You're going to find out why. But just interesting to learn more of on the other side of like how, and this is typical Wall Street stuff. How you can like be creative and where they can like issue shares and kind of pull these shenanigans to almost take over companies in a way, and he's just getting going with that. But there's going to be a lot more in that.
Yeah, it's just interesting to see no matter what you've heard of Frank Lorenzo, it's always interesting to see where these people come from and how he started. And it's just great. When I read this book too, it's really interesting to see like how many just small airlines there were everywhere, right? And not even that long ago. Like I remember when there was, still America West Airlines out of Phoenix and like all these smaller airlines, and it was cool. Like that doesn't exist very much anymore.
Yeah. Very little. So yeah, chapter 2 was really enjoyable. And then at the very end of chapter 2, they start to talk about a change in the CAB, that governing board that basically would set the rates. And then now Lorenzo's figuring out how to cut those rates, and the CAB is starting to allow kind of more of a free market, and that's sort of the prelude to the rest of the book. So
Yeah.
It's only going to get crazier from there.
One of these names that you never knew all came together in this paragraph. It says this was after Frank Lorenzo had figured out how to got the controlling interest of Jets Internationals, right? Or the Texas Internationals. And he says it was a proud moment. With a big boost from his friend Don Burr, Lorenzo had vanquished both Herb Kelleher of Southwest and Howard Hughes himself, because they were all involved in this whole story. And, so which you wouldn't have, I don't know, you just don't really think of Herb Kelleher, Frank Lorenzo, and Howard Hughes all in the same room.
In the same sentence. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just kind of a weird thing.
One last thing from that chapter, Bax. Lorenzo, they basically had a strike at Lorenzo's airline, and they had a system in place where all the other airlines subsidized the cost of the airline that was on strike.
I know, I highlighted that too. I read that. I was like, oh my God. The industry had a program known as mutual aid, in which all airlines subsidized the losses incurred by any one of them that took a strike. It was the airline's way of assuring that wages never got disproportionately high at any one employer, that they would all remain in the same boat so as far as wages were concerned. So that strike actually worked out to their benefit. We needed the strike, he says. It's crazy.
They needed the strike. Yeah.
What a time.
That's like a lot of coaches in sports, they have a saying. It says, we're one injury away from being good. Kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So this will, I think one of the main points of this book, and that first thing about the strike, you're like, wow, that doesn't seem really fair to labor. You're going to learn a lot more why the cards are really stacked against labor in this industry as this book goes on. So thanks to all the folks that have started reading and are reading along with us. We've gotten I was surprised how many messages we've got, Max, from folks that are reading the book.
I know, everybody's on board. So those of you that haven't got the book and started reading, or this is the first you're hearing of it, we're at page 88. Okay, we've been doing this for a month now. This is not a strenuous reading assignment. My third grade kid has more reading than this, so don't be afraid to pick up the book. Hit the link in the show notes to buy it on Amazon, and catch up. It's 88 pages. We'll be back in 2 weeks with this, so you can get up to 129.
Plus, get the paperback, because then the other pilots that see you in the terminal when you're commuting to work are going to kind of give you a little nod.
Yeah, respect.
This guy knows what's up.
Guy's doing his work.
Yeah.
Putting the work in.
Get some street cred. Last thing, Max, before we jump on to the regular segments, there was did you see this 747 landing?
Oh my God.
That was filmed. I think I could be wrong on the details. I think it was LAX.
It was LAX. It was on what's that video stream that's always on there?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a live stream with like a commentator. I didn't even know any of this existed.
Yeah. Someone, was it you told me, or our buddy Phil?
Maybe Christian sent it to us. I'm not sure.
Somebody, but this was in Apple News. This was all over the world. This poor guy, some poor German dude that slammed in the 7.4, bounced it, and it was hard, but it just goes to show that the poor guy can't even make a bad landing and get away with it anymore.
Everyone's watching. And can you imagine that too? Like, it's one thing to make a bad landing and go around, but then you have to do it after what how long was that flight?
Yeah,
12,
Frankfurt.
LAX to Germany. It's got to be 13 hours in the air, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so glad to be done. You just hammer one in.
I know.
Now, as we learned from talking with Ted a couple of episodes ago, that's probably one of his 2 or 3 landings of the month, maybe. So.
Dude, it is a full. He hits, comes up, lands 3-point. You see the flaps shaking. He hit hard, and then he hits all 3 landing gear, or all the nose gear and the mains at the same time, and then bounces and then executes the go around. But
hard landing. It's the theme of the show. I'm trying to. We were chatting before the show. Can you think of your worst landing, like one that sticks with you?
Yeah, I had one that was pretty bad in Phoenix on IOE at Southwest.
This is 737 you're talking?
Yeah, in the 737. That was I mean, boom, and you kind of feel the airplane shudder, like everything. But I guess the IOE guy said it, like, he goes, it's bad if the overheads open up. Like, I didn't open any overheads, so I don't think it was that bad, but it startled me. And I remember him just laughing.
That's the best part.
Like, he's like, he's like,
you could just see it set up.
Not your first day
away.
doing IOE.
I kind of, it's funny. I had a similar memory. I happened to be in Waco a few weeks ago, and it reminded me of when I had first got hired at American Eagle. I was on the Saab 340, which didn't have a level D simulator, so you still had to go do landings in the actual airplane. So you'd go do this whole sim program. Then when they would ship all these kids to Waco, and you would sit in Waco, and there'd be an instructor there, and you would wait for the last flight in to come in at night, and then the instructor and 2 students would go and fly the airplane at night in Waco and do like takeoffs and landings to get your bounces. And the instructor, I think, was either the number 1 or number 2 seniority guy at the company. And that's like all he did was this, like, taking kids out to basically do their first turbine airplane landings at night in a Saab 340 in Waco.
Did he live? He must have lived in Waco.
He must have. I don't know how else he would have been incentivized to do that, because it was gnarly. I just remember because it was just, I don't know if there's one landing that sticks out, but the way they do it is they take 2 of us. One would be in the jump seat, the other would be in the right seat, and so you were basically you were just going to witness about 6 just absolute bangers. It's just so brutal. I remember walking away from that, and me and my partner that I was paired with for that, we were both just kind of shaking, and we were just like, I don't really know if we can do this, because it was like dark. And it's not like Waco's got a ton of lights, so you can't really tell. You obviously, and you clearly are going to hit the ground way sooner than you think, because you're much higher up than in a 172, which is what you were flying before. So it was just, it was just hammer time. So, yikes. Good stuff. Well, we'll post a link to that 747 landing if you haven't seen it. You can check it out. Anything else, Max, before we move on?
What else? Oh, so the 747 landing made me think of the 747 fan blade project that I did.
Oh.
So I was in, where was I? I was in Austin, and I was on a turn, and I got out of the plane and went just for a cruise around the terminal, right? Just to move my legs and whatever. And I saw this
pre-surgery, I guess.
Yeah, pre-surgery. Right? So I saw this thing they had, and it was a carbon fiber turbine blade on its base, sticking up vertically. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And I just kind of looked at it for a second and took a photo of it, and then I went on about my business. And then the next flight I was thinking about, I'm like, I have this one spot in my house that's like, one of those little alcoves, and it's got a light above it. And I'm like, I want to put something cool there, and that has something you could, talk about or whatever. And I've been thinking about it, and I'm like, I wonder if I could make something like that. So I went on, and I figured out, I found where to buy a 747 titanium fan blade which is pretty big. It's like over 2 feet tall, right? And and then I had the same guy that I know that polished the wing for my bar in my house. I had it shipped to him, and he polished it like to a mirror finish, which is a lot more difficult to do with titanium than aluminum, because titanium is very hard, right? Aluminum's pretty soft metal, so it took a lot of labor. So now it's polished to like a mirror shine and a little base, and I have it in there, and it looks really cool. And I was like, I wonder if anybody else would want one of these. So I don't know. Do you think anyone would want one?
I want one. I know. Count me in. If we're gonna, I think we should do a run and see if we can get some folks that would want one. We'll post some videos. We'll have the Khaleesi make a little reel so you can see what they look like. But it's stunning. It's kind of this. You know what it sort of reminds me of? If you didn't know and weren't looking real close, it kind of reminds me of some type of like corporate plaque or something, like some type of a CEO would have on his desk. It's because it's like metal and it's curved, and it just looks so cool. And then once you actually know what it is, you're like, yes, this thing is awesome. But I think it'd be cool. Like what I was thinking is like, what an awesome retirement gift. for somebody, because what's cool is you could do like laser etching on it, have their name and like their flight time or whatever, whatever
that would be
titles
cool.
or whatever.
It's just cool. Like you look at that thing, and sometimes I'm like, think of all of the places that fan blade has gone.
Oh yeah,
like who knows? There's no way to know, but all over the world, I'm sure, right? So
on a 747,
I thought it was cool. Sometimes I make stuff that I think is cool, and I'm pretty sure other people don't think it's as cool. So I don't know.
Get to run it. It's a little sanity check. No, I think it looks awesome. So yeah, if you're interested in getting one, we're going to try and put together a little group buy, and we'll make some for everybody, and be pretty awesome.
All right. Yeah. Stay tuned on the socials. We'll put some pictures and video out and come up with a cost.
We're still struggling to put out like more merch, hats and the easy stuff, but 747.
Yeah, here we go. Polished
fan blades,
747
no
blades, though. We're really is in our wheelhouse here.
It's easy. No sweat. All right, let's jump on over to the reviews. Had a couple of them. Still having a big problem here, Max. So basically, for any listeners that don't know, here's the deal. You write us a great review, or any review, actually. It can be an honest review is what I should say, on Apple or Spotify or any of the platforms where you get podcasts. Write a review and then shoot us an email and say, hey, I wrote this review, and then here's the key. You have to include your mailing address for me to send you the stickers. I can't tell you how many emails I get of people telling me, hey, I wrote this review on Apple. Thanks for a great show. And then I reply to them and I say, great, where can I send the stickers? I never hear back from them. There's like 5 people right now that I could send stickers to, but they never reply with their address.
Really?
So just kind of play through, a little,
You say send a self-addressed stamped envelope to...
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm happy to pay for the postage to get it to you, but I have to know where to send it. So with that being said, we do have a couple of great reviews from... First one's from Pipeline Pig. He says, makes the pipeline patrol shifts fly by. The hilarious, off-the-cuff banter mixed with genuinely great advice, experience, and insightful guests makes my whole this my favorite aviation podcast. They mix things up and keep things interesting. Always makes my day goes faster. I love the updates about Max's meniscus. Oh, no, he didn't say the last part. And then he says, beware of the flute, and includes the flute emoji in the review, which I think is a first. That might be the first emoji.
You grazed right over this that I had in here from a screenshot from Aircrew News. Amerijet has informed its pilots that they may be announcing furloughs shortly. If we do not have enough volunteers or an increase in business, we will be announcing furloughs in late May for a June reduction. So the flute is rearing its music right now. Once again.
I'm playing Gavin's flute solo as we speak. You might not be able to hear it, but our listeners can enjoy it. Hate to do it. Hate to see it. The flute is out. It's alive and well. All right. Thanks, Pipeline Pig, for that review.
Yeah, that's funny. All right. Next, we have Straight Talk with Ted from Monty 82-17-3. Yes, thank you for bringing back Ted. Finally, we had no idea there was so much pent-up demand for Ted.
Pent out. This one guy was trolling me every day on the social media until we posted the Ted riding the camel video. We'd get like a comment every day. Another day goes by and we have not seen Ted ride the camel. My
wife came across that. She goes, "Who is this trying to get on this camel?" I'm like, "That's our boy."
Oh man, one of our other college buddies shot me a text and he was just like, Ted has renewed my passion for aviation, and I was just like, that's the best statement I've heard. A real passion.
Yeah,
real ambassador. Well, that's it for the reviews this time. Please keep them coming. Love to send you some stickers. Max, now it's time for the mailbag, which is, of course, brought to you by Advanced Aircrew Academy. If you visit aircrewacademy.com, you can check out all of the offerings they have for professional pilots to keep your flight department educated. And their blog always has great information. I'm going to read you a little bit of their latest post on the blog, Max, because this is some information I did not have. The blog is titled, Time to Update Paper Nautical Charts. Those words could send shivers down a pilot's spine, knowing the tedious task of updating paper charts is an endless chore. but the pilots flying in the industry now look back at this task with nostalgia. I don't know about nostalgia. It's
Yeah.
the word I would use.
It's a stretch.
Your Jeppesen paper charts will officially become a piece of aviation history in 2026 when the last of the paper charts come off the printing press. And NOAA expects to have canceled all of their paper charts by January 2025. The expired charts still work great as gift wrapping and aircraft window shades. Wow. I didn't realize that there were actual official sunset dates.
It's crazy.
It's
So,
amazing.
like, remember how we used to have to do flight planning with a plotter and like on the sectional with a pencil and the whole thing? Like now it's just all on the iPad, huh?
It's all on the iPad. I just remember like how hard it was at Embry-Riddle to you'd have to do these solo cross countries. I think we've talked about this before, and you have to get all, your flight log, everything signed off by the instructor. And you would always do these on like Saturday mornings, and I used to work the flight dispatch line on Saturday mornings. I just remember kid after kid would come in with all these hoops and a PQ card and all this stuff they had to do a solo, and they'd show up and then they'd have like an expired airport facilities directory or something. And they'd be like, nope, go back, try next week, go over to
No
Crazy
soup for you.
Randy's. Yeah, it was like, that's it. Sorry, it was just like so dumb, like to keep all these manuals, which you never look at, and now at least you could just push one button and everything's up to date. But like, so that kind of stuff just really held things up.
That's wild. Dude, so you remember that birthday gift I got you that one time? I think it was for your birthday.
Yes, it's still hanging up in my office.
Yeah, so I bought Dylan a aviation VFR aviation chart from like the 40s that I had framed of his like where he grew up, kind of that area in Oregon. And then so I bought him that, and that got me thinking, and I ended up cruising around on Craigslist in Tucson and found some guy that had an entire set of the whole US of never used VFR aviation charts from like the early 40s. And so I have that entire set still. Like, it's pretty cool. That's going to be actually pretty cool one day, I think.
Yeah, hang on to that. We'll have the that's what we were thinking about for now that we're doing more video stuff. We wanted a background. Maybe that's we green screen it into the 1940s aeronautical charts.
Not mine.
No? Maybe.
Yeah. We'll find
All right.
some online. That'd be kind of cool.
On to the mailbag, Max. This is a very timely email, which is going to address another painful topic on our delays here. It says, guys, longtime listener, slightly above average fan, but you have to get us a review of some luggage bags soon. The people have long anticipated this. It's time to answer the call. I'm an ag pilot who left you a review a few months ago and mentioned my plans to go from farmer to flight levels. Just got a conditional job offer with SkyWest and start training soon. I now have a clear and present need for some luggage that doesn't suck. Help! My wife is 6 months pregnant. I don't need the added stress of starting a jet career the very month the furlough flute begins singing its song while also choosing crappy bags in a trial and error fashion. Can you imagine? Please do it for the people and me. Many thanks. And that's Cade.
All right. This is it. It's it's been edited. We've approved it. And
okay, this episode's coming out on May 7th. The
and
luggage
it will be
reviews
released on May 14th.
May 14th.
We just have one last little thing we have to do this week, and then it's ready to go. I don't want to build it up. I'm going to warn you. My bare feet make an appearance in this video.
Oh, that's
it's
true.
Filmed in my living room or my kitchen.
It's incredible.
But we actually put effort into this compared to the cooler review. This is much more refined. It has like professional editing. I think it's cool. Hopefully it helps.
It's good. Yeah. And it's going to be helpful.
I will encourage you, Cade, hold off. I have exactly the bag in my head that he needs.
We do. Should we, Max, maybe right now, can we at least reveal the 4 bags that we reviewed, at least give people something?
Well, and let's hold on. We got to start with it this way. Okay. So the luggage review, each bag is going to be a separate video. We did that on purpose because that way, if other bags come to light that need reviewing, we can then make another video and just add it to the series. So that way you have a side-by-side comparison of all these bags. So let's and then, go ahead. Go ahead with the big reveal.
Yeah. So we'll reveal the bags here. And then the other note is we thought about doing this as in podcast form. It's just not going to make sense. You're really going to want to see this. So it will be on the YouTube channel. We'll have a link to that YouTube channel in the show notes now, so you can be sure and click on it and subscribe. And then if you hit the notification thing, it'll actually tell you when they drop. I mean, we're going to drop them all at once, so you can just zing through them all. So anyways, the 4 bags. We reviewed the Strong Bags, 21-inch, which is the one that Max uses. That is the Southwest Airlines pilot made bag. We reviewed the Briggs & Riley bag that I use on the corporate side. These are all 22-inch, like your standard carry-on rollerboard bags. We reviewed the Luggage Works Aurora, which is the new lightweight bag from Luggage Works. And then finally, we reviewed Paradox Aviation's new metal bag for pilots, which is a 4-wheel bag. And that was a kind of the unique bag we did in the series, and that one kind of came in at the last minute, so we decided to wait so that we would be able to review that bag. And they're all very interesting. And I think, Max, we walked away from our series saying that there was a different bag for a different people. We learned the best bag for corporate. Yeah, the best bag for corporate is different than the best bag for the airline, which is going to be different for other people. So that's why I think it is important to get our take, on each one, because the bag that we recommend to Cade, which I think we both know which one we will, is probably not going to be the bag that we're going to recommend to somebody that's flying a Gulfstream. So we promise. We're on record. We've
teased everybody long enough.
May 14th. Here we go. All right. Great email from Cade. Thank you so much. What's next?
All right. Gents, I wrote to you some time ago, maybe a year and a half ago, regarding a mechanic transitioning to the pilot seat. I utilized your podcast for advice as well as Raven Careers to get me where I want to be. He goes on to say he's now a pilot for NetJets from Greg. So congratulations, Greg. That's awesome.
Yes. And Greg actually had emailed us to see if he was flying into Scottsdale and wanted to say hi. And we get these emails from time to time from folks that are coming into Scottsdale. Yeah, please keep them coming. If we can make it happen, we'd love to. Obviously, getting 3 pilot schedules to line up can be a challenge, but it is super cool when we get a chance to say hi to folks when they swing through town. So thanks for the message, Greg. Next email. Hello, gentlemen. Thanks for putting out this slapping banger of a pod. I've been listening for over a year and have recommended it to several friends and will continue to do so. I'm an Allegiant FO and I've been with the company almost a year. I love it. Before entering the airlines, I was a military pilot. I love life at the airlines, thanks mainly to the Allegiant business model that allows me to fly A320s by day and hang out with my wife and 2 children, and 3rd child on the way, by night. Unlike my 8 years in the Army, I love being able to focus purely on flying and meowing over guard. Just kidding. Monitoring 21.5 for me is a spectator sport. I don't contribute. For anyone who is curious, life as a military aviator, intelligence gathering King Airs for me, can be exciting but can also be trying. I describe my Army job to people this way. It was like managing a Walmart and flying an airplane on the side. There were a few cool flying missions, but most of the time I was at my desk behind a spreadsheet, gritting my teeth through a day full of meetings, or out in the heat laying out shipping containers of smelly gear for inventories. Somebody has to do it, and I'm grateful I was able to serve my country in that capacity and that I gained valuable skills and character traits along the way. I never could have guessed that the airlines would be waiting for me on the other side. Keep up good work. 5 gold stars. And that's from T. Oh, and then he says,
P.S. I read Hard Landings a year ago in your recommendation. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I feel it helped me wrap my mind around the industry I was jumping into. Enjoying the book club with my white wine in hand.
All right. Thanks, T. Cheers.
Right. Hey, guys. As a pilot who found your podcast just a few months before changing careers into the world of professional aviation, I wanted to say thank you for all you do. I'm now approaching the end of my first year at the fractionals and still enjoy both the education and entertainment your show provides. I just finished listening to your latest catch-up with the ever-passionate Ted, who seems to have found his dream job getting paid to sleep. It reminded me of an interaction I had with one of our pilots that joined the fractional to keep flying after leaving the airlines at 65. After 4 months flying here, he told me, "It's so much work, you got to get out of here and get to the majors as soon as you can." I told him I was enjoying the type of flying we do and was worried that I would get bored seeing the same Bravo airports over and over, and he responded, "Oh yeah, boring is good. I love boring." which just made me wonder whether he and Ted could have been besties in another life. Story aside, I do want to offer up my short experience in the never-ending commercial versus private versus fractional debate. The biggest gripes I hear from pilots who left the fractionals are usually about the constant schedule changes while on tour and the responsibility of having to clean and restock the cabin after the owners deplane. Personally, I get a little excitement out of showing up for work and not knowing if I'll end up in San Diego or Turks and Caicos that week. Or maybe it's just another night at the Hilton Hasbrook, which is less exciting, but not as bad as everyone makes it out to be. And for my family, the predictability of a 7-on, 7-off schedule makes planning our calendar super easy. Regarding stocking and cleaning, of course nobody likes it, but I dislike crowds even more. So given the choice of stocking snacks or going to the commercial terminal 16 to 18 days a month, I'll throw some snacks in the drawer and go hang in the crew lounge any day. It doesn't hurt that we have to fly some pretty cool airplanes and amazing avionics. I'm certainly not here to convince anyone one way or another, but just wanted to offer my experience in case it helps anyone with a similar pros cons list. Thanks again for all you do, and always remember to fake it till you make it. John from Charlotte.
Yes. Good. Yes.
I think John was a little confused about the 16 to 18 days. Those are days off, not at work, John. Just for the record.
Right. But his point is, that's why it's cool when you can try both, when you can have
Totally.
experience. Because he does make a good point, like would you rather be in the public or would you rather be, doing a little extra work?
Yeah. It's
Are you
all
the type of
trade-offs.
person that can sit still? Yeah. All
No,
trade-offs.
I'm not.
Last email comes in from Tyler. It says, just listen to the eVTOL episode in regards to traffic planning. The FAA and NASA have been working on a project called Urban Air Mobility to accommodate the eVTOLs. Think of low-level IFR routes between vertiports. Should be interesting to see how it develops.
See, I had faith, Dylan.
Yeah.
Everything's under control.
They're on it. Yeah. I don't think they'd be pouring all this money into it if they weren't looking into ways that they could do it. All right, Max, that is going to do it for the mailbag. If folks want to get involved in the conversation, you can just shoot us an email, info@215podcast.com, or visit the link on the website and fill out the flight advice form, and you can send in your email or advice question anonymously. Speaking of flight advice, Max, got a good one for you today. Flight advice is brought to you by Harvey Watt. We mentioned them earlier. If you visit harveywatt.com, you can go into the little calculator and play around with the premiums and figure out exactly what it would cost to get some coverage. And then if you've already got coverage through your employer or through your union, you can talk to Harvey Watt and see what supplemental offerings they have to give you the complete protection package. Remember, you might think it's just a small meniscus surgery, but you never know what could happen. Protect yourself and protect your family. harveywatt.com. On to flight advice. Do you want me to read this to you or vice versa?
You read it to me, please.
Okay. All right. You close your eyes. You focus.
Go ahead.
I'm going to preface this email by saying I had to read this a couple times before I figured it out. This person is a Spirit Airlines first officer. Okay.
Got it.
Hey guys, I'm 28 and single and have no kids or anything holding me down to any city. I am willing to relocate for any job that is after this one. I know you covered the Spirit furlough flute in the last episode, but I'm a low time FO sitting at 1,900 hours, with 300 of those hours being 121 time. I am safe from furlough for now, but I wonder if the writing is on the walls is as bad as I feel they are. I am in the top 50% of my base and still can't hold a line. Factor in a base closure and captain downgrades, it might be another 2 years until I can hold a line. I obviously don't know what the future holds, but I am worried about leaving a stagnant seniority list and joining one at a regional. Just recently applied to SkyWest and was turned down. I do have interviews at other regionals set up along with NetJets. Overall, the goal for me is to be at the airlines. I don't mind if I have to step away and build time at a, well, he says 135 op like NetJets. Spoiler, it's actually 91K, which you might want to learn about before the interview. I just wonder if we are going back to the times of needing 1,000 hours of turbine PIC in a 121 world. Long-winded question, but should I stay or should I go? If I go, should I do a regional or NetJets?
I think you should prepare for the world of 1,000 hours of turbine PIC.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
I agree. Yep.
So that being said, make your decisions on that, because you just jinx yourself. You said it. But that I mean, 1,000 hours turbine PIC, that wasn't even like that big of a deal back then. Like, that was a minimum requirement, not an average requirement or an average, time. That was like minimum.
Oh,
so, yeah, I mean, we've already pulled out the furlough flute a couple times. Like, if you're going to jump somewhere where you think you can build turbine PIC time.
Yes.
Because that opens all of the doors. Period. That's it.
That is the best piece of insurance you can get. I think NetJet's anecdotal information is you can get there in about 3 years. You can upgrade in about 3 years, maybe a little bit quicker from what I've heard. Right now. I'll tell you what, though, Max, we're starting to hear a lot of people emailing in about going to NetJets. Have you noticed that? Mm-hmm. Because now the regionals aren't hiring so much, and now everybody's going to NetJets. That's the popular thing to do right now. So that tells me the hiring is going to be more competitive there.
Yeah. And I was just going to say, what do you think that does to the average times?
Yep. The times are going to go up. And so, look, you've got some things going for you. You've made it through a Part 121 training program. That's good. 300 hours of 121 time, also good. But yeah, I would say regionals. Is there a regional that may have a faster upgrade time? There might be. We're probably the wrong people to tell you which regional that is. But I think you know who to call to find out where the fastest is. But yeah, I agree, Max. Turbine PIC is king right now. Go try and get some of that.
It's always been king. That's the thing.
Yep.
It's always been king. Just in the last few years, you've been able to shortcut that.
Yep.
But I just feel like personally that has been such a staple for so long. That has to return at some point.
And it's a key developmental piece of your career. We talked about this before in other flight advices. Like this is going to help you develop as a pilot too. So, man, if you got to go to a regional and maybe fly as an FO for a year or two and then jump over to the left seat, I mean, maybe you're attractive at the regionals because you're closer to meeting the minimums.
Here's what I don't understand. How could you be bidding in the top 50% of your base and not be holding a line? That would mean that 50% of the lines have to be reserve.
Maybe there's only 10 line. Maybe there's only 10 pilots in the base. I don't know. I don't know.
I'm bidding like 50% and I'm holding a weekday line.
Okay, let me ask you this. If you're this person, would you be actively trying to leave Spririt?
I knew you were gonna. I thought about that, and I didn't even want to say anything because I don't know.
That's the real question.
I think that if everything is good where you're at, except for what's going on at the company, and that's what's spurring your potential departure, then you may want to think twice. But if it's something where making a lateral move can improve things in other categories, because maybe you were willing to make sacrifices because you didn't think you were going to be there that long, and now it turns out you might be there longer. Whereas if you can move to another airline that has a base where you're from and all your family's at, or something like that, and you can get something else in the deal, then maybe it's worth making a move. It's hard. It's a scary move to leave somewhere anticipating a downturn or a furlough or something. But if you do and you make the right call, it's a great call.
Here's what would have me lean towards yes, leave. You've got 1,900 hours right now, and if you're on reserve and you're probably only going to go backwards, you're not going to be building much flight time. If you're in 50 percentile and you're on reserve,
yeah, that's wild.
How many hours are you going to fly, as a reserve flight?
Well,
40
and
maybe?
He's concerned about holding a line. It's like, dude, and I don't think you're going to be getting closer to holding a line anytime soon.
Yeah, your potential is to be on reserve for a long time. I don't know if I don't know. Yeah, that's what makes me nervous. If you were there and you're still grinding out hours and you're still flying 80 hours a month, I was like, okay, maybe you have some time. But if the stagnation of the building of experience is what would really worry me.
28 single, no kids, dude. But
I think
this may be the time to go do something cool, where you can get turbine PIC.
Yeah.
Maybe go to Alaska or go to another country. Go be an expat somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Like the 28 no kids, nothing holding you down situation, that doesn't last forever for most people.
Yeah, that's a very small window of your life. And I think you've already, and what's cool in your situation is you've already done it. You've already proved you can get through the training program.
Yeah.
And you can fly an Airbus. Like, so it's not like, I think it's a great, in an interview in 10 years when they're like, so explain how you went and flew turboprops in the Maldives for 3 years. Like, yeah. It looked like it was
I saw the writing on the wall. I bailed, wait until times got better.
Did something fun. I did something
tell you
cool.
What, yeah, that's not something they hear in the interview much at United. Yeah. So
that's going to help you stand out. So that's our official 21.5 recommendation.
Go fly a turbine otter on floats in the Maldives or something similar. Or an Antonov 27 in the Congo.
The Democratic or People's Republic?
No,
whoever you can get on the seniority list first. Everybody knows that. That's good advice. See, we had to talk our way. I think we kind of talked our way through that one, Max. We both kind of pumped each other up into the right. Now we both feel very happy with our advice, but we had to get there. Eagle careers. We got to talk it out a little bit.
Let us know what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. That is going to do it for Flight Advice. Thanks to Harvey Watt for their longtime sponsorship of that segment. We've got more flight advice in the hopper. Folks are writing in at a record pace. We'll be working on getting through those. If you'd like to join the list and hear what we have to say about your situation, you know what to do. Visit the website, fill out the anonymous form, fill out as many details as you can. See how helpful it was that we knew that this person was 28, single, had no kids, or nothing holding them down. That's all very pertinent information for us when we're trying to help you out.
What would be kind of fun is if somebody wrote in a flight advice and then provided their contact info and we could just call them and do the flight advice live.
A lot of them do, actually. I would say a fair amount do put a phone number. A lot of the flight advices people do include their phone number.
People on another show. I'm like, what?
No.
Yeah, we should try and do that. Maybe
so
we can call you.
Oh, bring it to the next level.
Cool, because a lot of times there's always like these gaps, It'd be kind of nice to have someone on the phone be like, well, wait a minute. So what about this?
Like a live, and you could see this would just be like, oh, that would be really interesting. If you're brave enough to come on the air. Are you saying like come on the air and do it live? Or are you saying just call them and get more details?
No, we'll just call them. Be like, all right. So we'll read their question and then we'll be like, all right, and have them on the phone. Here's our advice. But then we could say, hey, what do you think about flying Russian-made aircraft in sub-Saharan Africa? Is that something you're open to? Or
yeah, okay. So we can get that immediate vibe check. I see what you're.
How important is maintenance to you? Yeah. What is your will to live like?
How much adrenaline are you interested in? Do you enjoy telling good stories? Okay, good. I think that's going to do it, Max. We've hit an hour. It's pretty solid. Anything else?
Right. No, that's it.
Okay. Thanks to everyone who contributed to this episode. Thanks to everyone in the book club. Thanks to all the emailers, flight advisors, and of course, our sponsors, Harvey Watt, Advanced Aircrew Academy, Timothy P. Pope, Ferris Jet Sales, and the Air Comp Calculator. More to come. Luggage reviews, we promise, on the YouTube channel. You got to go subscribe so that you know when they come out.
Dude, I got a funny story for you. Actually, I just thought of you said the Air Comp Calculator. So I was talking to our buddy, our mutual friend Ken, and he's with another one of his buddies who's an aircraft owner. He's also a pilot, but he doesn't fly it. He owns a jet now. And they're talking about pilot pay, and the pilot's hitting him up for a raise, and he's like, And Ken goes, I think Max and Dylan talked about this on the podcast, and he goes in there and he talks with Broyhill, right? So it was our conversation with Chris. So they finished listening to this podcast. I think they were on kind of a long drive. They listened to that segment, and this guy gets on the phone, calls, orders it online right there, gets the aircraft calculator. And then he called Broyhill up. He's like, what's the deal with this guy? And he's like, and I guess Chris Broyhill is pretty funny, affirmed his position, says, listen, you're actually right where you should be on your pilot pay for your market. He's like, that's what I thought. And so then he went back to the pilot and was like, hey, I talked to this guy. Here's his number. You can call him if you want. But it was kind of funny because that's like totally the opposite scenario we've been pushing, which was the pilot bringing it to the owner. The owner brought it to the pilot and was like, look, you pal.
Wow. A reverse.
Yeah, I know. The reverse comp calculator.
Interesting.
I know.
The owner comp calculator. That's next.
Yep.
Interesting. Wow. Well, Doctor,
that but see, who the pilot is too.
Oh, I can't wait. I have a pretty good idea. I know who it is. So I guess, but this illustrates what we've always said about the air comp calculator, which is you can pick up the phone and call the guy. Or even better, not you, but somebody in your organization that is questioning the data or wants to know.
Well, the best for that is like if you're in a big company that has like an HR person that does all this, like he speaks that weird language of like indexes and all this stuff. So yeah, that's the best. But it's just, and the thing is, it's not like whether you're trying to use it to gain an advantage either way. Like it's just no BS. Like this is what it's got
to be fair.
Yeah. It was funny though. He told me that and I was like, I hadn't really thought about it in that scenario, but that's pretty cool.
That's right. Good. You got it. Good. All right. Well, aircompcalculator.com. Little surprise ad read there.
That one's for free, Chris.
There you go. Okay. That is going to do it. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode of the 21.5 show for professional pilots by professional pilots. Until then, remember.
All right. Flexibility is the key to air power.
See you next week.
Later.
The statements made in this show are our own opinions and do not reflect, nor were they under any direction from any of our employers.